holding it down. Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the FRS Season 7. We are kicking off the weekend with a little bit of open division action just for drivers to get kind of dialed in. We are taking a visit here to the Saudi Arabian circuit of Jeddah. Here is the track, 6.1 kilometers, around 27 corners, although lots of them are very, very sweepy and don't really cost for a whole lot. So should be an interesting one. A few DRS zones. This is the first time on the official FRS calendar for Jeddah. It's now the 24th circuit we've visited. Turn 1, your primary action zone, of course, down the pit straight. Breaking into this first chicane is your best first overtaking opportunity. You get that little bit of a switchback, and then it's kind of follow the leader back and forth the rest of the way. Otherwise, down at the end, the last corner, turn 27, your next best overtaking opportunity is you have that long DRS straight into the final hairpin that puts you onto that pit straight. So 2 overtaking opportunities right back to back in this one. Taking a look at the tires, mediums shake out about 0.6 of a second slower per lap. The hards 1.1. We got a 25 lap race coming on our hands this weekend. You take a look at the tire life. So soft's still only good for about 8 laps. Mediums will go 14, hards will go 19, although that is what the game's suggested lives are. Drivers typically can stretch them a little bit further than that. We may see soft hard or hard soft, but it's typically not the ideal strategy. Let's hop out onto the circuit and join the drivers that are making their way around the track once OBS decides to finally switch the scene. 3, 2, 1. There we are. And we are on board with, looks like root breath has invalidated already, so we will find the next one around. I'm doing all right, Coral. It's a tired morning, had a late night, and, you know, my voice is already shot, so I get to commentate an entire race, and I think that's going to go really, really, really well. But so far, not too bad. Appreciate it. We'll jump on board with Clem. The Red Bull is their first around. Find just ahead of the 100-meter board, get the brakes down, turn in for this tight little chicane. It tightens up on the second half of it, actually, to dial it in. I will say, Coral, there's one blessing to not having quite as many divisions going this season is I have to make a lot fewer videos and graphics. But Clem through the tricky little switchback side by side, and of course that's naturally the fastest first sector of anyone, as they are the first one to set would appear a valid first sector, as other people are getting their laps started. Fairly long circuit around here, good about a minute and a half in race conditions. You should see drivers down into the 27s, I would guess, from our Div 1 drivers. Maybe even the highest of 26s. But we will, as usual, just kind of get our eyeballs on the first kind of testing. A little bit of a wobble over that curb there. Some of these raised curbs can upset the car a fair bit. And we do have yellow flags already. It looks like a Mercedes off the circuit in the first sector, and it is tricky through there. But out of the final corner, trying not to slap the wall as Verstappen did in 21, keeps the rear of the suspension intact, and we're going to get our first qualifying time across the board, 28.5. A decent start. I believe Ruprath next across the line goes to a 28.1, so has improved already. False Tax has invalidated their lap. We will find Major Castleman, who is working their way through the second sector now. Very important to try and get just the lines just right and carry as much speed as you can. Some of these little switchback turns, very difficult to dial in just right, and we'll see how brave some of our drivers are. There are some DRS zones leading into light-ish braking zones, so we'll see if anybody's thinking about throwing one dangerously up the inside. But, you know, it is the FRS. People get daring from time to time. Here comes Castleman. Took the race win in the Open Division and also stamped a race win in PC Division 1. Still, as a reserve driver at the moment, goes to a 28.2, so manages to put in a solid lap time. This is Furry Onyx. I believe Daredevil is the Mercedes that had a bit of a mistake. And Furry Onyx working their way through the last corner here. Getting on the power, a little bit of a wiggle. And yeah, the other Mercedes of Daredevil into the pit lane. Nemesis Nordy also opting for the pit lane so far. Across the line, Furry Onyx a 31.5. And looks like False Tax has also invalidated their lap thus far. And there you see where you kind of cut across the circuit. We'll see, is anybody on an out lap? I believe Nemesis is indeed on an out lap, so he is getting dialed up. He'll be the next driver to go for a valid flying lap. It looks like one of the Haas's has run out of gas, it would appear, and is limping their way into the pit lane as the car is still moving, but you can see those local yellows around. And yeah, there's a Mercedes that's pulled off to the side. Didn't really need to because Nemesis was just on the out lap, but you know, you're not aware of that as the driver, so they're keeping it safe. Also, although they may be just struggling. Did they miss the pit entry and run out of gas? No, because there's green flags again. So far, after the first batch of qualifying runs, only half of the drivers able to set a valid flying lap on the first one. And as Nemesis works his way around, running P2 in the Drivers' Championship in Division 1 already, as him and Povey took home P2, P3s, widens open that to get the best run that he can down the start-finish straight to go for a top time. So, lap has begun. Timer is counting. Late on the brakes, just after that 100-meter board. Very daring to get on the brakes that late. Manages to get it slowed down. And out of the chicane. A little bit of wheel spin, it sounded like, from the engine note. Kind of spun up just a bit. And now just feathering the throttle through these little cutbacks. A little bit of a lift, then slow it down to maximize your exit. Take as much of the curb as you dare. And across the Sector 1 split he goes. 32.5 looks to be a decent lap to start this one off, but with no reference of his own yet, we will just have to see how it fares when he crosses the start-finish line. Pitch it in, down to 6th gear, hard on the throttle, carry as much speed as you can on that exit, because now you have a few turns, but you're flat out. DRS flips open, you're still going to make a left. Then you're looking for your braking point on the right, just about the light box. Pitch it in, try and not take too much of the curb because it does upset the car if your ride height is too low. If you absolutely nail it, you can just straddle it, but I would say in race conditions, you're probably going to see drivers take a little more conservative approach through that, because they don't want to crash. And up to the back end of a Mercedes, maybe get a little bit of a tow as he crosses the start-finish line. Rear wing flips open. He's going to the inside to take the shortest line. 26, 27, 28.5. That puts him provisionally P4. I believe that Clem is next across the line at 28.5 to 5. I believe they're just actually starting a lap. So we will track down. Looks like both of the Haas's are on out laps. Is that Nordy that is on a flyer. 33.271 through the first sector. We saw Nemesis down into the 32s. So we'll see where Nordy is going to shake out. Been a while since Nordy's been on the game, he says, after the end of last season. Basically hasn't touched it, but is rejoining us for this Open Division race today, which should be a decent little scrap. Mostly, a lot of the top end of Div 1 is here. You've got Castleman, Clem, and Nemesis all going to be fighting for it. Daredevil put in quite a performance in their debut in Div 1 last week, aside from one kind of a brain fart mistake leading to an incident after a safety car restart. They were on track for potential driver of the day honors, but Nordy crosses the line. 29.9 P9 and puts them up into provisional P5. We will find Mercedes coming around. Daredevil, who we were just talking about a moment ago, climbed their way through the field in Bahrain in that Div 1 race, and then a mistake kind of outbraked themselves and had an incident into turn 4, and that shot them right down the order. Managed to recover decently, goes to a 29.267. That pushes Nordy down one slot, I believe. False Tax still yet to set a valid flying lap. Here he is on a flyer, but that red track map, invalid lap. So he's put it back into recharge mode, and will attempt to go again. Just taking a look at the circuit map, it looks like outlap, in-lap. Some yellow flags. It should be Castleman's going to be the next one to start a valid flying lap in this one. So we will see how the Division 1 leader is going to fare around Jeddah here. You see that flashlight. Oh no, Ruprath sets the fastest lap, 28.053. So dipping down into the low 28s. Now very close to the 27 mark. Does Castleman have a response? Still 7.5 minutes left to go in this qualifying session. So there is plenty of time to get this run plus one more in. Looks to be relatively tidy through the first chicane. Maybe not as aggressive as he possibly could have been. Try and maximize the entry into turns 3 and 4. And then it looks like that back end moving just a little bit through those high-speed sweepers. You want to keep it just kind of on the edge of control, and there's those tricky track limits, because you can see he went fully off. But he is not invalidated. He's 0.2 down on his previous best, though. So unless he has lots of time to find in the final 2 sectors, it is likely that it is not going to net quite the qualifying time that he is hoping for in this one. Yellow flags just ahead, as it looks like some of the Haas's are going a little bit slower. And we hope that they can stay well clear of the racing line. Off to the left is the Haas, and through goes Castleman. Now he's half a second down from his previous. Oh, and a crash there. Ruprath spun it around and is into the barriers, it would appear. Was that Ruprath or was that False Tax? That was False Tax into the barriers. So still had yet to set a valid flying lap, and into the barriers he goes. And I'm sure Castleman has aborted that lap and is pulling off to the side. And a scrappy lap to begin with, and then even, at the last moment, another car sideways in the walls. But gives him time to go ahead and make a switch and get ready to go for another flying lap at the end of this session here. I believe that is Nemesis, who has an invalid lap at this stage, so we are relatively quiet. Is that Furry Onyx, who is on a flying lap, has found a 1/10 of a second through the first sector. Furry Onyx on a 31.5, looking to find some time into the last real tricky one. And out of the final corner they come. Rear wing open with the DRS across the line. They do find 0.8 of a second. They're down into the 30.7s, but still need to find about 0.8 or so in order to challenge the next driver up the list, who is Nordy. Believe, as QX Nemesis on a flying lap now, has found a little bit of time through the first sector, has dialed it up, and is going for a ripper of a lap, it would appear. Let's see how he manages through these long, gradual sweepers. Only a couple real aggressive braking zones around this circuit, even though there's 27 corners. You're only hit the brakes for about 5 of them. Keeps it just in bounds through that sweeper. And is now on to the final stretch, hugging the inside, trying to equalize, scrubbing speed off, and making the shortest line now through the final corner that gets tighter as you go. That right wall comes up very quick, and across the line. No, he's abandoning this lap. He's had enough of that one, and into the pit lane they go. Furry Onyx on their in lap, so has not set Not setting anything new on that. Nordy, the only other car on the circuit on their outlap. Getting ready to rock and roll. 3.5 minutes left to go in this session, so we should see drivers go out for their final runs very, very shortly. And here we go. We're right on board with the Alpine driver. Rear wing flips open. And they're going to start their flying lap here. Looking for a braking point a little bit right around 100-meter board. Switch it through the cutbacks. And the throttle goes down. Made it through turns 1 and 2 decently. Now turns 3 and 4. Safe line. Not necessarily the quickest line you'll see through there. Here we are. We're going to get a little bit of a health check on their lap so far. Crossing this first split, they found about a half a second from their previous best. So, see if they can continue that. If they can find that half second, they'll get them close to Daredevil. They need to find a little bit more, about 7/10 the margin between these drivers at the moment. But Nordy getting quicker and quicker every time as they get dialed back into the way the car feels after being a little bit off in their first kind of visits. Another little bit of time gain, still about a half a second up on their best. They need to find quite a bit more in this final sector. Now, I don't think if they finish this lap, they're not going to have a lot of time to go to get back around and go for a final flyer. They won't. So they've either got to think, are they happy with this one, or are they coming into the pits? They're going to go ahead and take this lap time. Crossing the start-finish line, they find 7/10. They do jump ahead of Daredevil, go to P5, as now the outlaps start to rein in. It looks like we've got Furry Onyx the furthest around to start the, or no, that would be Daredevil is the furthest around the Mercedes, going for their flying lap in this one. So we'll see what Daredevil can do. Can they reclaim that position from Nordy? They went just about a 1/10 of a second quicker, did the Alpine in that one. You know, it actually looks like Clem should be on an outlap, I believe. It's just doing that lovely little glitch where it says it ends outlap early. But starting their flying lap, here comes the Mercedes of Daredevil. We'll take a look as they begin. And yeah, the outlap messages are starting to fall away as drivers get to the final sector. We'll keep an eye on the first sector split of Daredevil. If they are improving, we'll stay with them. But we also got to keep an eye out on Clem, who is just a little bit further back. We'll do a quick swap and take a look at Clem as they are battling for pole position potentially in this one, as is Castleman. Ruprath still holds provisional pole, a 28-0. And Daredevil has found about 3/10. Now we'll hop back to Clem. We'll see, are they going to find time through their first sector split and put them in contention? No, they've lost time through that first split. Nemesis now, next across, has found 2/10. Nordy is out. Nordy has crashed. Oh, no, Nordy has retired. There's yellow flags, though. Has Nordy made a mistake? There's a Mercedes in the wall. That is Daredevil, who has made a mistake on their lap, so that is going to cost them a chunk of time. Take a look at Clem as they cross the second split. Are they still off? Yep, they found a little bit of time, but not enough to really be competitive. Nemesis finding another couple of tenths. He's into 3/10 back. But, oh, he's invalidated. Just a little bit too much curbing in that corner, and he's invalidated. Castleman has invalidated as well. So as it stands, Ruprath in very good position to retain that pole position. Ruprath has invalidated. Furry Onyx on a lap. They are coming up to their second sector split. No, Clem does find time in the final sector. Actually goes provisional pole by just 0.03 of a second. False tax is out. He has crashed. Furry Onyx now trying to move up towards Daredevil, one of our few Division 2 representatives in this one. We'll see how they manage their way through. And there's some damaged wing on the inside. And across the line, Furionics does find about 0.6 of a second and gets within a second. But Clem takes the pole position away from Ruprath by just 3/100ths of a second to make up the front row. Castleman about 2/10 back in P3. Nemesis another 3/10 back, and then there's about 6/10 to get to Nordy and Daredevil. And then Furry Onyx down at the back. But there you have it. Just a quick relook at the starting order. And the gaps there. Clem, P1 on pole position. Ruprath, then Castleman, Nemesis, Nordy, Daredevil, Furionics, and False Tax. So, we will get ready to go to the race session. Straight into it. 50% distance race here in the FRS. Which is 25 laps around this one. Softs will go 8 laps. I doubt we'll see them. They're a high deg tire. The softs in this game just kind of fall apart. Although, I mean, I think ideal strategy around here, if you were allowed to do it, would be medium. And somebody has already started it. So we are on, oh, there's some cool blurring of those dudes waving their arms around. I don't know if you can see that. It's like some sweet blend. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I agree. Only chance is late safety car. I agree, Nick. Bummer you couldn't be here with us this race, but it is a little cloudy. It is a little bit cloudy. Yeah, I literally just noticed that. But yeah, they're just waving their hand. Maybe we'll just get splashes from the waves. And it looks like somebody might not be loading in, but yeah, you can see the code, the lines in the matrix. But we will take a quick look, and once cars are on the grid, we will see who is going for what strategy around here. Typically, hard to medium is kind of the move, and we have a decent split. Clem and Ruprath on the hards. Castleman going with the mediums. He started hard in the last race and ran that to good effect. He's sandwiched by Nemesis and Nordy, who are also on the hards, and then Daredevil, Furionics, and False Tax, all on the medium tires. So 4 and 4, the split between our 8 drivers for the hards and mediums. We'll see maybe Castleman not locking down that front row, going to try and use those mediums to get a good launch and get up amongst the front 2 at the early stage. It's going to cost them a little bit later in the race. It's a light grid, eight drivers, basically what we had last week for the open division. It is a Friday afternoon for the Western Hemisphere drivers and just kind of a Friday evening for Europe. And so it's usually light, but we will see. Yeah, they've already got the... No, well, it's not quite the 2023 Red Bull livery because it doesn't say Honda on it. And that's about the only change. Oh, no, it does say Honda on it. So they do have the 2023. They already changed the HRC or whatever to Honda. It's already in the game. I don't know why anybody ever gets excited about a Red Bull livery reveal, because we all know what it's going to be all the time. Ferrari, whose entire brand is the red car, has made more livery changes than Red Bull. Bring back the Red Bull blue and silver, the Red Bull can colors. I want that on the car. See, I need to watch the actual livery. I didn't get to watch the whole livery reveal. I just kind of saw pictures. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I expected was going to happen. Let me take a massive drink of this water and hope that my voice doesn't die immediately, as a few drivers are having trouble parking in their boxes. Haas livery's decent. It's like... Alright, let's grab Castleman as the 5 red lights come up. We wait for those to go out. Lights are out. A little bit of a delay. We wait for all the drivers to go. There they go. So we're seeing just slightly different clock timings, it looks like. Castleman has indeed gotten a good launch past Ruprath. Is going to sweep around the outside of turn 1. A little bit of wheel banging as they head to turn 2. Space left on the outside, but Castleman's going to slot his way in there nicely and take over P2. Furionics up 2 positions right at the start there. False Tax is dicing with Daredevil, it would appear, and it looks like Daredevil has held it down. Nordy struggling with the start, as we are probably going to see a lot of track limits, and that is False Tax right across the runoff there. And we are going to see people get to it. Nordy still going to find his race pace, I think, over the course of this one, getting back into it this time around. But up at the front, Castleman has gotten that start that they need. They need to use those medium tires now and try and make their way past, as Daredevil struggling a little bit with the front end, it would appear. We'll take a look up at the lead of the race. Nemesis now starting to put some pressure onto the back of Ruprath, who is losing a little bit of time to Castleman ahead. It's sitting about half a second or so, but it's still very nip and tuck. Furionics, as you would expect, the first Div 2 driver, starting to fall back a little bit, but Daredevil is going to have to try and close back up and re-attack, though Nordy's still attached to the tail end of False Tax. I would expect he has an opportunity to make a move on him relatively soon, as at the end of the first lap, Clem leads, Castleman jumping a position, Ruprath, then Nemesis, Furionics, Daredevil, False Tax, and Nordy. 39 seconds worth of penalties. I will keep an eye on that, Nick, over the course of this race. Well, so are you picking a multiple of 3 because you expect it to all be track limit? I think you got to put a 5 somewhere in there, because somebody's going to speed into the pit lane. At least one person's going to speed into the pit lane. Castleman starting to put a little bit more heat on Clem at the front in the slipstream of the Red Bull. Of course, no DRS just yet, as they are working their way through the starting line. Or starting sector, not starting line. I looked over and read line in the chat. Oh, 3x5s. Okay. 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 I can't argue with that rationale, Nick. But Castleman attacking, now has the run, going around the outside, switches to the inside. He's got the lead on Clem. It's come at a pretty late time, though, because he's not going to have a whole lot of time to increase his gap on those medium tires before DRS becomes enabled. But he's taken over the lead of this race, and QX Nemesis now putting pressure on Ruprath. Had a little look to the outside, pulls back into the slipstream, closing. Ruprath defends to the inside. Ruprath actually very late on the brakes, nearly catches up to Clem. False Tax, Furionics battling. Oh, and False Tax is around, as it looks like there may have been a little bit of contact between the two. We'll go back to the battle with Ruprath and Nemesis. Ruprath again defending to the inside. Nemesis has a wheel alongside. Oh, didn't exactly have claim to the space, was not fully alongside. Ruprath kind of shut the door, and it kind of just bumped the two of them. So, that's a bit of a... that one might not be quite so allowed, as Nemesis wasn't really fully there under braking, but it looks like they've managed to avoid, and Nemesis, though, does pick up the first of our track limit penalties, as it looks like it's False Tax around once again, and he's got no front wing, and that is in the first sector of the lap, so he's going to have to limp a very long way around. Yeah, it might have been a little bit of net code between them as well. But, I mean, not exactly yielding. False tax with the next penalty warning. This is an insult to injury as he's got a damaged front wing. Now picks up 3 seconds. Castleman almost stretching out of that 1 second margin, trying to get away from Clem, but it looks like Clem with a good run through that set of corners, closing to about 6/10. And now with the DRS is going to get right up on the gearbox of Castleman. Not quite close enough to attack into the braking zone, but there is a second dose of DRS coming up just now. Nemesis falls outside of that 1 second margin. He is no longer going to have that DRS help down the pit straight. Castleman sets fastest lap of the race. Clem hot on his heels though, but not quite enough of a slipstream in order to attack down into turn 1. Nemesis gets right on the border of 1 second, closing in and out, as Furionyx is the next to pick up track limits penalties in this one. But got a good fight going up at the front. If Nemesis can close up, could make it a 4-way fight for the lead. As it stands, we got a little bit of splitting, but we will just have to see. It's still a few corners before the next detection point, and Nemesis has actually closed up 3/10 or so. So now he is bordering right on 7/10 of a second. He's got Ruprecht at 8/10 behind. And that is kind of how it is all between the lead pack. Can Castleman use those medium tires and get away from Clem? If he can break the DRS, that would go a long way. But through the detection point, they're all within a second of each other. So we will see that rear wing flip open on the Red Bull, flip open on the Williams, and on the Haas. And it will be kind of all as they were. It looks like a good straight line setup for Castleman and Clem. Nemesis, even with the DRS, losing some ground compared to him. He's also running quite low on the battery pack. You can see that red light flashing on the back of the Williams. So I think it'll be difficult for him to hang with this group. Yellow flags in the first sector again. It looks like False Tax has had a bit of a moment. So a tough day and a tough start for him. A little bit of contact, I think, between him and Nordy in the final corner, and then the wing damage. But up at the front, still a pack of 4 cars all running together. Daredevil has cleared Furionyx a while ago, is starting to close back up. Nordy looks like he's starting to find a little bit of pace and starting to close up to Furionyx just a little bit. We know the pace is there. He was amongst them in qualifying. He just needs to get his race pace kind of dialed back in. But Castleman still flirting with that 1 second margin. Nemesis falling just outside of it now. That could put him under threat from Ruprecht, but looks like he's got a good exit out of that long sweeping left-hander. 997, 1023. Is he going to be here at the corner? It looks like he's managed to keep it with the detection. Now Ruprecht with 3 seconds worth of time penalties. So all's fair between Nemesis and Ruprecht, between the two of them now. Both carrying 3 seconds worth of time penalties. Essentially turns this into a 2-horse race. And that is Furionyx around. Furionyx, as he picked up damage, he has. He's into the barriers. Broken wing there. That was a tough day, as now the front pack starting to separate a little bit as Clem nearly fell out of the DRS detection range. Nemesis has fallen 1.2 seconds back, and that low battery is not helping him out, and that is going to put him under pressure from Ruprecht. Yeah, as safety car is enabled but on reduced. It's just normal normal FRS rule set, so still on reduced safety car. Looks like those few incidents, not enough to bring out safety car. It looked like a little bit of a wiggle for the back end of Clem coming through that high-speed sweeper. He really kind of put the car on edge there. Well, it does allow them to stay within that 1 second of Castleman, who you got to think that those medium tires may be starting to swap their advantage with the hard tires in the next couple of laps. And it is at the detection point. I think Clem has just about stayed in by a couple milliseconds at the last detection point. We'll see if that rear wing flips open. It does. So he's just held on to the DRS there. And Ruprecht now closing up to QX Nemesis as that pair has lost touch with the leaders and now is just starting to fall back a little bit. You can see them just in shot for a moment there, but that red light still flashing on the back end of the Williams. Nemesis using quite a bit of his battery, and Furionix is out of this session, and it looks like through the first sector, and that is going to be a full safety car. So, does anybody bite? Oh, and it looks like Ruprath has not slowed down for the safety car, has hit the back of Nemesis and done damage to himself. Nemesis almost getting into the back of Clem there. So, interesting. A mistake from Ruprath. It looks like he has luckily made contact just before the pit entry. So he's going to swap the wing. He'll automatically serve that 5 seconds as well. So he's going to be he'll lose some positions, but he won't be in too bad of shape. He is now onto the medium tire. Is going to have to try and take those 18 laps to get to the end, which is it's a bit of an ask. Yeah, Hards can go about 17 laps. I think Castleman... Wow, look at that. At slow speeds, there's like you saw that huge like blurring. That was cool. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. Hards can do about 18 laps. So yeah, I don't know if he... I wasn't really seeing if he missed the pit entry or not, if he was by it by the time the safety car was called. It was close, I think. But we will see if any of these drivers want to drop in. Of course, only 7 drivers left in this one. So even if you take a pit stop and drop to the back of the field, you're not losing a lot. You still have the opportunity to get quite a bit of laps done. Ruprath is kind of towards the back of the field now, though. So if you do drop behind him, you will have to pass him. And he is quick enough to run with the lead pack. Nick, I'm blaming you for this incident because you literally asked about the safety car. And then, all of a sudden, here's a safety car. Like, you manifested it. Like, you did this. So, looks like a couple drivers coming in. Castleman is in. Daredevil, Ruprath coming back in. Ruprath has run a lap on the required tires. He's putting a new set of mediums on because it's not really going to lose him any positions. It's False Tack's still catching up to the pack. Yeah, so what do we have here? Well, 5 second pen got... Yeah, Onyx, like literally minutes ago, Nick asked if safety car was enabled. Like literally a minute before your crash. Literally a minute. Well, Nick, you still got a lot to go for your penalty. Because as it stands, we've only got 9 seconds on the list. If you want to count the extra 5, we got 14. It was served, so it's not going to show up in the end of race briefing. We are at 14 seconds. You still got 25 seconds to find to get to your 39. So, got some work to do. Got some work to do. See, False Tack still trying to catch up the pack a long way off the back of the field. Has he made an extra? He has made an extra pit stop, so that is why. Are you sure you're not a politician, Nick? Moving the goalpost to make your assessment correct. Still haven't gotten the message of safety car coming in yet. With an extra pit stop taken by False Tax, I doubt they will let him catch. They will wait for him to catch all the way to the pack. They will probably go green next lap unless he can catch him on this lap. But he does seem to be pelting it around. He's going to have some nice warm tires at the end of this one. But as it stands, Clem, Nemesis, and Nordy, your top 3, still yet to pit, though. Castleman, Daredevil, Ruprath have made stops. Castleman and Daredevil on the preferred strategy, I would say, being able to get those hards on at the right timing. So we should have a decent net for them. Clem and Nemesis and Nordy, they're gonna have to try and find a green flag pit stop or hope for another safety car, which could be something. Could be something. We wait for False Tax to come blitzing around. You can hear the din of the cars, and False Tax probably picking himself a warning there. But fields all grouped back together. And I would be shocked if we don't go back to... Yeah, whatever it is with this camera and corner, you get that sweet turbo effect all on the back end of the cars. So we're at lap 9 of 25, so we got about 16 racing laps left to go in this one. In theory, if there's another safety car, we could lose a couple racing laps. And it's really kind of what Clem, Nemesis, and Nordy are going to hope for is another safety car out of somebody. Otherwise, I don't know that they're going to make the gap they need on old hards and then go mediums at the end. I don't know that there's enough of a differential. We are looking about a half a second per lap on new mediums versus new hards. So still got a ways to go, but safety car is in this lap. Clem becomes your de facto safety car as they get ready to restart the field. You can see the Mercedes around the final turn, working their way up, and you can see just up in the top left underneath the scoreboard there, Clem leading it around. Keep an eye on the telemetry. When do they decide to go for it? Still weaving, have not yet restarted this race. Nemesis very close on the back of them, and there has Clem gone. Full overtake enabled, and it looks like they've gotten a good jump on the field. Castleman has gotten a great restart on Nordy, is going up the outside, manages to sweep around before even reaching the apex of turn 2, and just like that, Castleman back up into the podium positions. Nordy being shuffled back as Ruprath and Daredevil both go through. False Tax off the circuit, looks like rubbing up against the wall, trying to leave space for each other. Nordy and False Tax as they're battling through there. It looks like Nordy is going to stay just ahead in this one. And there we go, back up at the front of the race. Nemesis on the heels of Clem, but has Castleman behind with 8-lap fresher tires on there. So already has the tire advantage and also doesn't have to make a pit stop. We got yellow flags. It looks like False Tax has fallen off the circuit a bit. We'll take a quick peek. He's managed to avoid, it would appear, wing damage, but Castleman now breathing down the gearbox of QX Nemesis. Ruprath looking to make a move on Daredevil as well, just in the rear of the shot there, but Castleman with those fresher tires. Oh, it looks like maybe a scrape of the wall there as he's carrying that speed. He's in the slipstream now. And now here goes Ruprath around the outside of Daredevil. Daredevil defending to the inside into the final corner, but those medium tires should provide a little extra grip as they get on the throttle. They're going to have a drag race down into turn 1. Is Daredevil going to come back at him? Ruprath gets ahead. Daredevil with the slipstream, having a little peek to the inside, but nope, no move is on. Nemesis still up at the front, and now Castleman, Nemesis. Oh, and around goes Ruprath. Maybe there was contact, didn't get a good look at it, and it looks like he's collected Nordy as well out of just sheer bad luck. Nordy was coming through at the worst possible time. Nordy appears to have avoided any kind of wing damage. Has Ruprath hit the wall? He seems to be okay, but let's jump back up to the front of the field as we have these top 3, the podium positions, all very, very close to each other. Castleman doesn't need to do anything careless. He just needs to hang with this group, let them make their pit stop, and as long as he can keep growing the gap to Daredevil, he should be able to pretty much cruise his way to the race win in this one. Did well on those medium tires at the start to get up towards the lead of the race, and then was able to take advantage of that safety car coming in. But Nemesis really putting the pressure on Clem, and is just going to have to back off a little bit, almost too close to Clem to try and set up any kind of move. Now Castleman really trying to choose some different lines. Just kind of see what's happening between these two drivers, and maybe a door will open. Look at that speed that he's carrying around the outside, though, even without that slipstream. Nemesis carrying that 3-second time penalty of the group. So at this point, it's just on Pride. And into the pits comes Clem. So Clem is going to be the first to go to the pit lane. DRS now enabled, so maybe that being the choice for Clem to not be overtaken on track with it. He's going to come out in some very clean air. Should have a good margin between False Tax and Ruprath. Looks like he's just now on the move once again. And will we see Nemesis respond this lap, or is he going to try and take those hards a little bit longer? Only 11 laps into the stint on those hard tires. The mediums can do the remainder of the race distance, but is the hard or the medium going to be the better tire for at least a couple of laps as you get beyond the midway point of this race? Lap 12 of 25. And now that, well, we're about halfway through the lap, so we'll call it 12 and a half of 25. And we are at about the halfway point of this race. 7.8 seconds the margin for Clem before he catches up to Ruprath, and Ruprath with another 3-second time penalty. So it makes 6 for them. And that is going to cost them a fair bit of time. Still trying to chase down Nordy once again, as they had a little bit of a tangle, it would appear. Ooh, that's that Nemesis scraping the wall there, taking a little bit too much to the inside. It may have been netcode, but he did also lose some speed and some time. Into the pit lane comes Nemesis, grabbing every bit of slipstream he can, and Nemesis speeds into the pit lane. So another 5-second time penalty. Castleman sets the fastest lap of the race on that, and now has 3.7 seconds of full clean air behind him. Daredevil has already made their stop. They're on the same strategy as Castleman. We'll take a look at Nordy, who is kind of running in their own air. Clem stays ahead of Nemesis. Side by side, actually, on pit exit. A little bit of space left. Nemesis has actually overcut Clem on that one already, so he's going to have to deal with some cold-ish tires. But the overcut does come into... Oh, no, that's Daredevil around. Daredevil has had a spin in the first sector, and so has Rupert. They're in different parts of the track. I don't believe they came together, but now Clem and Nemesis have made it past Ruprath. Nemesis is really making it... And, oh, False Tax is out in the final corner. Another safety car, literally... One lap after Nemesis pits. If he had just held out for one more lap, he could have avoided, he could have taken essentially a cheap pit stop. But now it gets interesting. What does Castleman do here? Does he go back onto a set of mediums to go to the end of the race? He's got 15 seconds to Nordy. He hasn't made it to the pit lane yet. Does he hold out? Let's keep an eye. He's coming up to the pit lane. Indeed, into the pit lane comes Castleman from the lead of this race. Just needs to be careful on pit entry. And now we will see if he can get back out. There's a set of mediums going on to that car. They are fresh set of mediums. So he is pulling out. Nordy is into the pit lane as well. So that's an even bigger gap, as it looks like now Daredevil and Nemesis. Daredevil is coming in. So Daredevil's getting off those hards as well, kind of mirroring Castleman's strategy. And it looks like everybody's into the pit lane. Clem onto softs. Now, 11 laps on the softs, it may be too long to go. It may be too much to do. Nemesis stays on those mediums. He literally just put them on. Daredevil onto mediums. Ruprath on a set of mediums that had done the one lap, so he's putting a new fresh set on there. Clem onto a set of softs at the back of the pack now. What kind of pace are they going to find? It could have been, I think, It could have been a good opportunity for Nemesis to pit anyway and serve the 5-second time penalty. He would have come out essentially in his normal position but would have cleared 5 seconds, because now he's carrying 8 seconds worth of penalties with 11 laps left to go in this one. I think it may have been a better choice to make a tire change. But we will see what Clem does at the back, though. Soft tires on. They are going to get a little bit of extra life because they are going to spend a couple of laps under safety car conditions. I would assume we're probably going to do one more lap under safety car as Clem needs to catch up the pack here. Now the question is, Clem appears to be falling further off the pack. Are they going quick enough to catch the pack? Like, they don't seem to be putting full beans down. Safety car is not in this lap. They're going to go one more time. So Clem should have plenty of time then to catch up to the queue here. And then there were 6. Clem back into the pit lane, so soft tires not the choice maybe for Clem, which makes you question why they were driving so slow around. If they were planning on making another pit stop, they probably should have gone as fast as they could to catch the pack, so they would lose as little time as possible, because now they've got to re-catch the pack entirely, and they may just go back to green flag racing this lap. Clem should be able to catch them up, but I think it's the right call. I would have been curious to see what the softs would have done over a 10-lap stint, but that's a long time to take the softs on high deck. I think going back onto the mediums is the right choice. I believe these are relatively fresh. They've got 2 laps on. So everybody's on mediums that have 1 or 2 laps worth of life in them now. So all equal as it is. Now it's just a question of also who put what fuel in the car. But Castleman in the lead of this race, has Nemesis on the back of them. Nordy in the mix here. Ruprath, Daredevil, and then Clem rounding out the running order as it is left. So, pack is all together now. And we should see that safety car in this lap message quite soon. And we will get back to green flag racing. 10 laps left to go in this one of the 25 laps. We've got 2 safety cars that have eaten up a few laps, but has created some interesting strategic wrinkles here. Safety car, there's the message from race control. Safety car is in this lap. And we will wait for Castleman to restart us once again. Weaving to get some temperature into those tires as the safety car gets away. We will once again see that safety car go around, and then the field. 6 cars left in this open race, and now we wait to see when Castleman goes. Still weaving is Castleman ahead of Nemesis, and there he's gone. It looks like Nemesis has reacted pretty decently. A little further back in the pack, Daredevil has gotten a good launch, although Ruprath coming back at them. Swinging to the inside, a little bit of coverage as Ruprath having a look up the inside, potentially of Nordy. Clem just has to kind of hang out and wait for things to sort itself out. Nearly 3 wide into turn 1. Oh, a snap of oversteer from Ruprath. He's into the wall. Through goes Clem, through goes Daredevil, and on they go. Now up at the front, Nemesis already losing some gap to Castleman here. He's got that 8-second time penalty, and that really hurts as Clem now picks up 3 seconds. So, Nick, you're starting to get closer to your prediction. 11 seconds on Nemesis there. 3 on Clem. 6 on Ruprath. We'll take a look as Clem now starting to work their way on the back of the Mercedes of Daredevil. Red Bull and Mercedes line astern they go. Can Clem find their way past quick enough to start to close up to this lead battle? We may have a surprise podium on the cards for Nordy coming back onto the grid. Around the outside goes Clem, switches to the inside. Side by side, a little bit of space left. Looks like they managed to avoid any kind of contact, but through goes Clem. Now has 1 second to find to catch up to Nordy. And now is going to have to try and find their way up at the front. Still 7/10 the gap between Nemesis and Castleman. Nordy falling back down to 2 seconds the margin. One more lap before DRS becomes re-enabled. We are back to just our first green flag lap of racing. And Clem now standing on the net podium with Nemesis's penalties. Well, he's got 3 of his own. I do think it's still a net podium for Clem. So charging back through the field, he's got some work to do. He's got to catch Nordy, pass Nordy, get 3 seconds on Nordy in order to take P2 away. But as it stands, Nordy, penalty free in this tricky track, hasn't been the fastest racer out there, but is in the right spot. Ruprecht has had a disconnection, and so his day goes from bad to worse after that little mistake. And we will see if we can get him back into the lobby with any kind of speed. And keep an eye on the Discord chat to see if he posts when he's ready, and then I'll switch over and do a quick re-invite. Clem now within the 1 second. Oh, very slow exit is for Nordy there, and Clem should be able to steam on by. Nordy goes to the inside. Clem carrying that speed around the outside down into the final corner, turn 27. So many corners, I don't even remember the numbers except for turn 1 and 27, really. Castleman setting another fastest lap of the race out in the front, so stretching their legs. So Clem now has to find 3 seconds on Nordy to kick him out of net P2. We'll keep an eye on the leader gap. So no, Nordy's spun. Nordy's into the wall. It was looking like it could have been a surprise podium, and he's spun into the wall. Nose is broken off of that car, and that is absolutely heartbreaking. Was driving such a good, consistent race. Penalty free to this point, but now with damage, and Ruprecht's AI is pitting him. It would appear, because I don't believe Ruprecht is back in. He is not. He's out on to another set of mediums. An interesting choice from Ruprecht AI, but Clem now has to find a little bit of time to Daredevil. 1.6 the margin as it sits. As Nordy's just going to have to limp his way around. Could have been in the top 3 with all these, with some of the Division 1 protagonists this season. 2 of the top 3, and Ruprecht, of course, very quick up there. Had some incidents in Bahrain that hampered his race, as did Clem. Clem was caught in a couple of incidents. So really, Castleman, Nemesis, Clem, Ruprecht, you might look to be, you know, some of the regular top 5 finishers in Div 1. About the only one not present today is MJ Povey. Ooh, Castleman picks up his first track limits penalties of the day. So he's got 3 seconds. However, with Nemesis carrying a lot of time behind him, it's not a big deal. And Clem carrying a similar amount of time. So we've got 11, 14, 17 plus 6 is 23 plus 5 for the served penalty from Ruprecht. That makes 28. 3 for Furionics and 3 for false tags. So 31, 30. We're at 34, Nick. You need a 5-second penalty from somebody. You need somebody to have a 5-second penalty. Track limits doesn't help you much anymore. Unless somebody gets... Unless you can get enough penalties to take it beyond the mark where you can discount the served 5-second penalty. But as it stands, Major Castleman leads from QX Nemesis. Clem has found the 3 seconds he needs from Daredevil, so all 3 of them are safe. Daredevil, though, let's see. He is about 7 seconds back of Nemesis, who is carrying 11 seconds worth of penalties. So, he just needs to stay within that time frame. And he can jump his way onto the podium as we're on lap 20 of 25. And what looked like it was going to be a very interesting ending, unfortunately, kind of fell apart with Nordy's spin. Could have been very, very interesting to see if he could sneak a sneaky P3 by staying within Nemesis's window. But now that belongs to one Daredevil GG, who is still sitting about 6 seconds back now. Well, about 7. 3.0 and 3.9. So still about 7 seconds. Seems to be lapping at similar pace to Nemesis out front. And a little bit of snap over. Big wiggle from Clem. Actually gathers the car up decently. Daredevil's lost quite a bit of time in this first sector. No, he's got it back though. So he's had a very good run compared to when, obviously, where Clem, sorry, had the wiggles. And I'm not talking about the Australian kids band. I'm talking about the back end of the car not sticking to the ground like it should. So keep an eye on those 2 intervals between Nemesis and Clem, and between Clem and Daredevil. Those total up to 11 seconds. Then Daredevil will not make the podium. But if he can stay within 11 seconds, with 4 laps left to go, he needs to just not lose a second. And you can see way off in the distance there, the flashing red lights again. Nemesis, on an aggressive deployment strategy, has had that battery quite emptied throughout most of the race. And I don't know that that's helping him too much. I don't believe Ruprath has gotten back in. No, he's still under AI control. I haven't seen a message from him in the Discord just yet. So hopefully it's internet based and it's not his computer fully dying. There's a message in the Div 1 chat. I just need to click real quick. Okay, nope, we're okay. It was not Ruprath. I just wanted to make sure he wasn't messaging in the wrong spot. But we've got some gaps all around the field as... There we go. We'll get back to Castleman here. Another 3-second time penalty for Nemesis, so that timer goes up to 14. And now it'll be quite a tall order for Daredevil to fall out of that gap, unless he makes a major mistake. Castleman still holding fastest lap of the race. Of course, everybody's tires are starting to degrade now. So I doubt, unless somebody comes in and goes Hail Mary for a fast lap on some softs, they won't take that away from them. Daredevil has the space behind to take a free pit stop, but it will drop them out of the much more valuable podium positions. So I doubt that we will see that happen, as he is still now about 8.7 seconds back of Nemesis. So still losing some ground, but not enough to where I think you would have too much concern for him. So I need to do some math. 14 and 6 is 20. Nemesis is out. Nemesis has just retired from the session. So Nemesis has had enough of today's race and learned all that he could. In a main race, probably get slapped with some penalty points for retiring on track. Open division, it's not as big of an issue. Still not preferred, but it is a learning and testing experience, and I think Nemesis probably can, with the pace he's shown today, can probably dial back 10% and stay a little bit more in bounds, and could be fighting for a good result in tomorrow's Division 1 race. So hopefully he's learned some things, takes that data into account, and goes for it. But Castleman starting lap 23 of 25 here. We're getting to the dying breaths. And Clem, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and Clem has retired from the session. So Clem's had enough of today. No need for them to drive the last 2 laps, so people apparently just dialing it out. But Castleman cruising and should easily take the race win. Now, in a funny way, Nordy podium is back on the cards. At least Clem was able to pull it into the pit lane before taking that. Hitting the showers a little early, but we're getting some stuttering there. And now we're just going to kind of cruise. So Nordy moves up past the retired car of Clem, up into P3. Ruprath still a ways back, about 11 seconds or so. We'll see when it updates next as he passes the stationary car of Clem in the pit lane. Yeah, 11.3 seconds. The margin. Nice little helicopter shot there. I wish they'd use that a little bit more. It's a good camera shot. But Castleman takes the proverbial white flag, the penultimate lap of the race. Scratch that. He'll take the white flag next time by, because then he'll take the checker after that. And we'll have a very quiet end to this one, as last 3 humans are on the circuit still. So Castleman working their way through, just getting the last little bits of info on how these tires perform towards the end of their stint. 10 laps done on them. Nordy has gone on to the softs for 4 laps. Ruprath Bot is onto a set of softs. And we will see if anybody's going to steal, if maybe Ruprath steals fast lap, but probably not, because the AI is set to 70. He's going a little bit quicker than Nordy at the moment by a couple of tenths per lap. But Major Castleman working around the last corner. And we'll start the final lap of this race. 2 safety cars in this one. Some pretty good battling throughout, but drivers opting not after some spins and just penalties determining kind of the field spread at the end. Drivers opting for an early evening. A few of them will go ahead and finish up early. But data testing is what the Open Division is all about. Hopefully those top-tier Div 1 drivers have learned what they need to be competitive tomorrow. As we will be back, same time. What is that, 8 p.m. UTC? Noon, where I'm at in the West Coast. We'll be back here on FRS Motorsports with I almost said PC Division 1. It's just Division 1 because we're full crossplay now. Just Division 1 is back, and we will be ready for some more action. First race was a pretty good one. Castleman looking to find a permanent seat. And it looks like Daredevil has had a bit of a spin. Castleman showing a purple middle sector. Is he expending his battery to go for a fast lap? He's all full on the overtake. Has he saved some tires at the end here? He is going for it. Out of the final corner. Some wheel spin as he puts the hammer down. He's going to come across the line and take the race victory here in round 2. And does, in fact, set the fastest lap of the race on that final lap. So, tires resilient enough to put in a fast lap at the end. Congratulations to Major Castleman for winning the second Open Division race of the season here in Jeddah. A commanding, solid performance. Reacted well to the strategy calls and drove quite nicely throughout this one. Daredevil going to be next across the line here for Mercedes. Is going to come home second of the remaining drivers. Nordy now working their way through the middle sector. We'll have just 2 more cars left to complete this race. as Nordy had some moments, showed some pace, showed some calmness. And I don't want to speak too soon. We'll wait for him to get out of the final corner, but the only driver that's going to finish this race penalty free. No time penalties for Nordy, so likely has some pace in the tank there if he pushes the track limits a little bit. But for return to the racetrack, a pretty good day for Nordy overall, aside from that one spin late in the day. But definitely got some interesting data to look at for that one. Mediums and hards, the order of the day. Softs, no, Clem thought about gambling on it, but ended up not taking that opportunity, and was one of the ones to just park it up in the pits early, along with Nemesis, who will show that pace tomorrow. But your race winner once again is Major Castleman, who is showing very good pace early this season and is looking to be an early frontrunner, though the battle with the likes of Clem and Nemesis and Povey, they've got good pace, but it's not by a huge margin. And really what's kept them in it so far is the lack of mistakes. So, like I said, we will be back tomorrow for the official Division 1 race. This was just the open division to get some data involved, get some warm-ups for drivers that opted for it. So what do we got? We've got some time penalties. I'm curious. And we'll get ready to head back. But thank you all for joining me once again. I will see you all tomorrow. You guys have a fantastic afternoon or evening wherever you at. Y'all have a good one.